Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bright Ideas podcast. As always, I am your host, Trent Deersmid, and this is the podcast where we take a big, bright flashlight and we shine the light on what is working in the world of e-commerce and online marketing. And the way that I do that is I bring proven experts onto the show to share with me and you what exactly is working for them. And then I ask them all sorts of really detailed questions. So they'll give us really detailed answers so that you, when you finish listening to an episode, are armed with hopefully at least a page of what I like to call actionable golden nuggets, things that you can actually implement in your business starting today. And this episode is no different. My guest, who we'll get to in a minute, is a fellow by the name of Scott. And Scott, I didn't ask you how to pronounce your last name, but I'm going to say it's Desgrosseilliers?
Desgrosseilliers. Very close.
Okay, so we'll get to Scott in a second. We do have a sponsor for this particular episode, and our sponsor for this episode is a company called SEMrush, and they have a new tool called Sellerly. Now, Sellerly is a free A/B split testing tool for Amazon listings. And if you've been following my show for a long time, you know that I have a multi-million-dollar per year Amazon selling business, and a big part of making our business successful is making sure, obviously, that our listings have the highest conversion rate possible. And the way that we accomplish that is that we run split tests. So now with Sellerly, for free, you have a tool that's going to make this a whole lot easier for you to do. There are key elements on an image that you want to split test. It's going to be the title, it's going to be the images, it's going to be the bullet points and the product description. There's always going to be some variation that's going to perform better than the others. And Sellerly is this new wonderful tool that is going to allow you to be able to measure that and get a conclusion on which is the better version for you to take. So if you would like to try it out, you just go to brightideas.co/Sellerly, and that's SELLERLY. So talking about numbers and split tests and variations, very, very aligned with what Scott and I are going to be talking about today in this particular episode. So Scott, let's start off by giving you probably the easiest question, hopefully, of the entire episode, and that's, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, Trent. Thanks for having me, first of all. I'm psyched to be on here. So I'm Scott Desgrosseilliers, founder and CEO of Wicked Reports. We're the leading marketing attribution platform for small businesses. So when people buy our platform, we're going to tell you what are your best leads that have the highest customer lifetime value, where is your marketing that's not working that you should stop doing, and where are you getting the highest ROI based on real, verifiable, first-party data, so that you can trust the data and take action on it, and your business will grow, or your overall marketing ROI as a result will improve.
Who is the ideal person in your mind to be paying attention to this stuff?
Multi-channel marketers spending at least $10K a month in pay-per-click.
Okay.
And our average customer spends around 30 grand a month, but we have all ranges. And multi-channel, which most people are doing, is where attribution really becomes a factor. Or if your leads take time to buy, which, in essence, most businesses, the leads take time to buy, but not always. If you're a pure product, selling toothbrushes online or something, then people are already looking for a toothbrush. You don't need to convince them of that. But when our customers, the average time between new lead to purchase is around 40 days. And that's because, most small to medium businesses, for us, small, medium business being 1 to 100 million in revenue, they're not household brands. And so they've got to do things to get leads and then convince them to buy. And the more that process, the longer it takes, and the more channels you're doing, the more important marketing attribution is for you to be able to actually scale your success beyond whatever initial success you had getting to the level you're at.
So just a couple of episodes ago, I interviewed a fellow by the name of Chris Mercer in episode 273. And folks, if you want to get to it, it's brightideas.co/273. As a matter of fact, that was the prior episode. This is 274. And we used that interview, Scott, to treat me as kind of a guinea pig. As I mentioned in that interview, I started to use paid traffic to drive leads into an evergreen funnel using webinar. And the first 3 weeks, it worked exceedingly well. And then for reasons that I'm still trying to figure out, it just sort of stopped. And I learned a great deal from Chris about the importance of implementing Google Tag Manager to give me all sorts of visibility that I didn't currently have. Because as Chris explained it, when you're coming from Facebook and maybe you've got a lander that's running on a landing page software platform, and then you've got your sales page, and then maybe you're checking out on yet another URL, tracking the data across all of those URLs can be exceedingly difficult. And that's the problem. One of the big problems that Google Tag Manager solves. In preparation for your interview and looking at Wicked Reports, as I was perusing the webpage, I immediately became curious as to, well, is Wicked Reports different than Google Tag Manager, or is it sort of a beautiful software layer on top of Google Tag Manager? Like, for a guy like me who is obviously interested in being able to pay for traffic and hopefully acquire those leads at break even or profitability, so attribution is going to be pretty darn important. Why would I also want to maybe pay attention to Wicked Reports, or how do the two play together, or do they even play together?
Sure. We're different than Google Tag Manager. For starters, we're focused strictly on attribution and very minimal setup and almost no maintenance from our customers are required. So it's not on you to be in Google Tag Manager doing anything to use Wicked Reports. So if you're the type that likes to do that and want to granularly track every micro commitment in your funnel and do all sorts of custom event tracking, Google Tag Manager could be a great option. And I know Chris, and he's a really smart dude that knows his stuff. So if you're going to follow his stuff, his blueprints, he's a great guy to know and follow for sure. We're different. Google Tag Manager for us, you would only use it if you had Google Tag Manager on all your pages already. Mm-hmm. Then to set up our tracking, you would create a new tag, put our Wicked tracking script there, and have it fire on all pages. And then you're done. You no longer have to tell Wicked Reports anything in terms of events or what specific actions or customers or leads or traffic is doing, where it came from, why is it there, did they buy or not, did they become a lead, did they already know about your brand. We deduce all that from your first party data because we're wired into your CRM and your shopping cart, and then we're on your pages. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we're verifying inbound clicks from ad platforms or emails or organic tracking, which we have not released yet, but it's now working behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. It will be out by the time this episode is live. So we're tracking all your inbound traffic to determine what sources, campaigns, content, audiences are turning into new leads or are already leads that are re-engaging or become customers in that visit. And then tracking back that revenue that comes from your shopping cart against your CRM to say, hey, was that marketing inbound activity something that created a new lead that became a customer over time? Or were they already on your list and they were an existing lead that now converted and became a customer, hopefully lifetime value? And we're then pulling in the ad costs from the platform so we can compute your ROI so you know it verifiably. Am I making more than I'm spending over time? Mm-hmm.
So let me preface all of my questions by saying I'm not yet an expert in any of this stuff. So I'm going to do my best to ask you good questions to get the best for the audience that I can. In the use case, I'm going to keep myself on the guinea pig seat for a minute. In the use case where a funnel was performing, and when I say was performing, I mean we were acquiring traffic on YouTube, which is obviously a different URL. That traffic was going to a lander, which was on my URL, and then it was checking, and then it was going into my EverWebinar software, which is on a different URL, and then it was checking out on my Infusionsoft app, which is yet another URL. Obviously, analytics does not have the ability to track that session from point A all the way through to checkout, so I would have to rely on YouTube's data for what's happening in the YouTube URL. I'd have to rely on my lander, my blog's data for what's happening on my lander. I'd have to rely on EverWebinar's data for what's happening there in Infusion. So, and as Chris explained it to me, when you take that approach, there's all sorts of room for mix-ups and inaccuracies, I guess, in the data, to paraphrase what he told me the other day. by implementing Tag Manager, he's saying, hey, you're going to be able to get a consistent view. And if something breaks at any point during the journey, because your data would look really bizarre at that particular step, that would give you, in essence, like a magnifying glass or a flashlight or a blinking yellow light on that section of the journey. And maybe that's where the breakage is. Are you able to accomplish, if I'm not using Tag Manager, I haven't taken all the time to set all this stuff up, and I find your software and I think, hey, this sounds just like what I'm looking for. Am I able to be able to diagnose in the same way that Chris tells me I could if I've set up my tags correctly?
Well, I haven't listened to that episode to know if you diagnose it the same way, but I do know that we do cross-domain tracking.
Okay.
Because our third customer ever had that problem where they were running traffic to their ClickFunnels page.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they clicked, it was the opt-in was a pop-up that was on their domain. And then you went to an Infusionsoft order form. And then I think they had an upsell, which was the fourth domain.
Yep.
And so I originally had an idea where I would collect UTMs and tracking parameters or what have you and pass them through all these pages. And on my third customer, that whole idea collapsed because of the problem you mentioned. So we immediately recrafted our entire tech stack so that it would not matter. As long as the same tracking script is on unlimited domains, really, we can map the whole user journey together. Because, so I mean, we were faced with that challenge, so we solved it. So the magnifying glass aspect of, without knowing enough about what happened there, it's not on you to look around that way when you use Wicked Reports. It's on us to deal with it in the event there was a massive drop-off. Now, there shouldn't be, because if the tracking script in your scenario is on your lander and then is on your Infusionsoft order form, in the click coming from YouTube, if it's maybe using the TrueView action ads that have the little call to action layover, when you click that, our tracking, Google has a cool thing called a tracking template that layers the right IDs we need on every click. So there's no need to build links, do redirects, create naming schemes, none of that. Because when they click on that call to action, it's going to inherit the template, which we can then use to look up whatever we need. So it's not on you to constantly name all your links differently. And then we can capture it. We have we have 5 different ways that we're trying to keep track of things, but cross-domain we had to solve it before I was actually Wicked Reports, I was just my own Gmail running accounts at that point. It's like my third account. So I remember that very vividly, that situation. So we would handle that. But from a Google Tag Manager perspective, if you want to granularly look at all the different things a user might have clicked on, or how long did they stay on a page, or session analysis of user behavior, Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager are phenomenal tools for that. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to say you spent money or time or effort doing something somewhere to promote your business. It brought in incoming traffic. Did that incoming traffic turn into a new lead, or did it opt in for something and they were already a lead? Then we keep track of that point and see if it turns into customers or not. Or did they come in and become a customer right away? We have funnel analytics floating around in our various tech stack, and people don't act as linear as you hope. I mean, sometimes they do, but a lot of times people like to, hack your funnel, trying to see, hey, does that deadline funnel still work? Or this old email link, or, oh, I see it says pricing -2. I want to try pricing -3, see if it's cheaper. People do everything. So we've had to debug a lot of that, because people test us on our numbers. So we transparently show, hey, we think you have 80 leads from this. Here are the actual CRM IDs. You can go see them in your account, and here's the time they were created. And here are the orders. Here's the order ID from Shopify or WooCommerce or HubSpot, what have you. Here you can map it back. And furthermore, here's all the tracked information we know about that person. So you can verify all our data. We're very transparent. And we're actually moving to a model where we only get paid for what we track. So it's on us to track it, or you're not paying. So it really aligns to why you should buy us. But I found that the reason we took that approach was you could suffer from data overload. You're already working a lot. And normally our people are marketers who are using it for ROI data. They're not trying to get in and granularly, if I said that right, micromanage every step of their fund. There's still value in that. And if you want to do that, that's great. But for us, it's like, am I making money over time with this funnel based on verifiable first-party data? Because if so, I want to scale it. If I'm breaking even or doing so-so, I might chill out. And if I'm losing money, I want to kill it. And it becomes that's what you use Wicked Reports for.
When did you, and you're the founder, right?
Correct.
When did you start it?
So I started it officially April 2015, but 2014 February, my first eventual customer I was doing some Infusionsoft consulting for, and he said, Facebook sucks for selling lobster online. And I said, oh yeah, why is that? He said, I just spent $4,000 and I got a ton of clicks. Only one person bought right away. Doesn't work. I lost $300, lost my shirt. And I was like, well, how many people scrolling through Facebook are just going to buy from some random lobster guy? I mean, I'm surprised one person did. And he's like, well, yeah, that's true. How am I going to know if it works or not? And I go, what does that mean? He goes, are they eventually going to buy because of that ad? And that led me down a path. And so I said, well, let me see if I can figure it out. There's probably something out there. There was nothing out there that was really maintainable or manageable or anything really. So at the same time, being from Boston and he's a New England guy, there's a lot of Boston sport team hatred because we were winning a lot of sports championships. People were all angry and we were all shocked at this news. And so he wanted to test a theory, which was people that like the Patriots or the Red Sox but didn't live in New England, maybe they'll buy lobster because why else would they like us? And maybe they're nostalgic.
Yeah.
So we ran some ads and I was able to show him, not immediately, but in 3 months, he would make 10 to 1 on his money. And he lost his mind. And now to this point, he's made over 2.5 million in 4 years on a few $100K spend. He's made 600% ROI. And he was ready to throw pay-per-click out because people take that super narrow focus of, hey, did it convert right away? Or when they dig in, they see Facebook or Google vastly overstating because you scrolled by and saw an ad and then you bought, and then they try to scale your ad spend on view data. It doesn't work because that's not a strong enough signal. So the method to our madness is highest value signals that we can verify so that you can trust them, backed by real sales against real leads and provable ROI. And when you act on it, you tend to make more money or lose less. And so that's why you should keep using it. And if not, you shouldn't. If it doesn't work, then why would you pay? You shouldn't,
Yeah, so that's actually a very interesting story. And if we can, I'd like to unpack it a bit to try and get into a little bit more detail. Let's go a little deeper in the weeds. So he says to you, this isn't working, and you start asking him questions. What was the first, so obviously you had to start getting better tracking based upon better signals, I'm guessing, but help me to understand, what were some of the first steps that you took?
Sure. So first we said, let's do UTMs. I'm going to individually name each link so that we know for sure the ad set, the ad, the campaign, that it was Facebook and that it was pay-per-click.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing it on your fan page or your business page, what have you, I think they call fan pages back then, you're going to do different UTMs per post.
Yeah.
And then we're going to store the UTMs and inject them in a hidden field in the form. I'm going to export them out of Infusionsoft and do some razzmatazz in Excel to divvy out the UTMs. Then I'm going to match the UTM sets from my links in Facebook against the costs.
Oh.
4 hours later, I had ROI. And then the next day he goes, hey, can you refresh that? And I'd be like, I don't want to swear on your podcast, but expletives followed.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. And then he was like, I would tell him the leads and be like, well, are they new leads or existing leads? And I'd be like, why does it matter? He's like, well, new leads are harder to get. And I don't want to count my existing leads, which that was how he thought then. And I mean, we'll dig into that later, but he wanted to know new versus existing leads. And I was like, what does that mean? And I was like, well, we know they're new if they aren't in your CRM yet. And they may not be brand new, but they're not willing to do the commitment of opting in, which is a big commitment because then you're going to get retargeted. You're going to get their emails. You're going to see them on YouTube. They're going to start stalking you. It's a big commitment to get the email now. And you have to, sell to get that email address. You got to sell your offer. And so what converts them at least to that point, an opt-in being the next most powerful signal next to an order. and a click being the next one in the hierarchy of, intent, and then a view being at the bottom. And so I looked at that because just from my own behavior, talking to people and looking at all this data, plus what we could actually track, view data, we can dig into how we track views somewhat, but I don't love it because it's less true. There are cases where it's true. You have a killer video and then you have a bunch of organic sales a day later, then it's definitely true. And there's things we can talk about if that's a scenario you want to. But in general, view data is vastly overestimated, or overestimated in terms of the value. Because how many times do you scroll on something and remember it the next day, even? I don't remember what I ate like a week ago.
Yeah.
But 22 days ago, I viewed an ad and then I bought. Like, that makes no sense to me at all. No sense. Particularly with Google. Now there's ways to mess with your windows if you know what you're doing so that you're not getting bad view attribution. But if you don't know that, you're acting on bad data, so you're getting bad results, even if you might have a good idea and you just were using bad data to begin with. So back to Mark. So he was really hell-bent on were these leads new or not, and then how long is it taking me to convert, because I can't just spend at a loss forever. I'm a small business. I have a $10K a month budget. I can't just spend into the abyss knowing that I eventually, hopefully, these leads are going to buy. So we needed to have provable ROI. So that's what got into pulling from the shopping cart to make sure it was a real order, net payment, not gross, because, what if the credit card failed? It was a payment plan, so I only realized $30 out of my 100. We got to be able to show net ROI. So that was my first big venture into that whole world for e-com. And then Digital Marketer came along. They were my 10th customer, and they totally got it. And they were like, hey, I have 500, and Molly Pittman's like, I have 500 ads running. I'm not doing UTMs on all those. So me and John Grimshaw would slave away trying to do UTMs. We're like, this sucks. So we created a way where an ad ID is used, and we go look up what your UTM values are so you don't have to create links.
Yeah.
So that was a big hit.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh man, I have all this flood of data coming in. How do we make it actionable if I have all these different attribution points? Sometimes I want to give credit to one point entirely because it maps to my strategy. And other times I want to look across all campaigns and all journey points and just sprinkle credit throughout all of them and just know, is it working or not? And so you got to have a game plan for your attribution. What are you trying to do with your marketing? And then look at the right measurement model that matches your point. And then, well, I could stop there for some questions. I got a couple more to get into, though.
No, you keep going.
Okay, well, subscriptions. You got someone that's rolling on subscription every month. That's your most valuable customer. Well, you got to chain those subscriptions together, and you can't count them on the current clicks after the subscription started, but they're your most valuable customers. So you're tracking for the lead or for the sale that created that subscription is your most valuable click by far. So your measurement model, which Google and Facebook don't take into account, that's why we're high-level partners with them, because they're all gung-ho for us to help them with this, is that if someone bills every month, you want to keep
a running tally.
The measurement signal has to be screaming at you, this was really valuable. Look at the lifetime value here. And so where my patents are all involved in is we wire into these subscriptions, get the monthly bill going, and map it back to what created that new lead. Because the cold traffic that got them to become a lead, and then down the road they became those high-value subscription rebills, that's the most valuable marketing. It's the hardest to find, and it's gold. So we orient a lot of our attribution around trying to make sure you're aware of this is where you found all these subscription customers, and the signal being revenue.
So this, as I listen to you, I think this is something that everybody who sells anything online wants to know. And man, oh man, does it ever sound complicated. So
it's been decreasing in complexity over time, but it started out very complex in 2014.
Yeah. So the value prop of your software, Wicked Reports, is it saying, hey, we're going to give you this visibility that you all need to have to make informed decisions based upon attributable data, but we're not going to make it really hard to do.
Yes. So we've spent a lot of time, and we actually lowered our marketing budget and chatter until we could get our churn down to super low, which it's currently 3%, which is quite low for an analytics SaaS. And that's even including people that shouldn't have bought that's churning out. We're counting them in there. So now we're actually ready to scale. So this podcast was good. We're lowering our onboarding. We're including organic, and this rush of features coming out, one of which will be very interesting to you, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But what we found was that certain integrations are slam dunks for people to set up. Like if you're Shopify or WooCommerce in HubSpot or Klaviyo or MailChimp or ActiveCampaign with a few, and you have Google Tag Manager set up, you're set up in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You have all your tracking. Where the excitement comes in or the effort is when people have non-unique funnels, or they want to track custom events, or they have a homegrown CRM, or they're doing the API, or they have Stripe and their product data isn't in there and they want it in there. Like, we can only act on the source data we have. And so granted, I just said 15 minutes, that can happen. It also could be up to a month because, I have a cart in, overseas that we never heard of, and we have to wire in the API. And,
Yep.
Oh, shoot, I have an iframe and I forgot about it. So when I set up my tracking, I didn't put in that iframe, which captures all my opt-ins. So I'm not showing any leads. Oh, crap, I didn't put my tracking script there. So there's degrees of complexity. Like with HubSpot, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Aweber, Klaviyo, we automatically track all email clicks. You don't need to do anything. Nice.
Yeah.
Fusionsoft, you got to put individual UTMs on every email. That's not fun to do, but if you do it, you're psyched and you can know which email closed the sale. And if you don't, then you won't. Kind of how it goes. A tricky thing for us though is video tracking. If we have to know who the person is, and so we can know it if you have a layered call to action over the video, or if you have unique UTMs in the description of the video, which isn't always fun to do. If you have like 80 videos, you don't want to do that. If you have 2 videos, you're fine. you know, if you're doing if you have a funnel where it's you want to track multiple steps, and like one of the steps is talk to a human, and you have to set up an HTTP post for us on that. That might be easy if you're using like I don't want to, I ripped on Infusionsoft for emails. Infusionsoft, very easy to send an HTTP post for an event. And then we can attribute that just like anything else. But then you got to set it up. You got to test it. You got to say, okay, I understand. Okay, I know what I'm doing. So it depends how far down the rat hole you want to go. If you stick with our basic use case and our native integrations of I'm doing Google, Facebook, email, and I have a good integration and a good cart, good from Wicked Reports point of view, and I already have tag managers set up on my pages on everything, then it's very easy. But it depends how far down your tech stacks nowadays are, scary. Yeah. It's like walking into the sewer in New York City. You don't know what's going to be down there,
And the data, so once I'm set up properly, am I looking at real-time data that's to the minute, or is it only 15 minutes, or how accurate is it, or how real-time is it?
Yeah, so right now we're next day, because our attribution isn't intended for you to pivot on a campaign that you just started running a few hours ago. Because the ad platforms have faster data. We can't get the data as fast as they're giving it to you, so we couldn't support you in that manner. We don't have full cost data like Facebook and AdWords. You got to do like cleanup jobs a couple days later because they're still calculating your costs after the day's over, which, in one event is kind of puzzling. How do they not know? But if Google and Facebook don't know, they have good reasons. So they don't have the, so when you're optimizing and split testing just based on a couple hours, the reach and frequency or the, click rates, those are already great in the platform. So we're trying to do things that are going to be value adds, not repeating what you already have in the platforms you exist. So we're more daily or weekly analysis. We have people that have logged in 4,000 times. They use it and they want it real time if they can get it. And we're like, it's not to be used real time because we got to pull from the cart. We got to pull from the CRM. We got to attribute it, and we got to pull the clicks info from the platform. Syncing those up real time was just wasn't panning out. It just was. We're looking at maybe doing every 4 hours for Google clicks related to a project we're launching in August with Google. We're the first ones working with Google to send CRM data via what's called gClick ID or the Google Click ID into the platform so that Google has attributable CRM and sale data will automatically import Google Click ID with verifiable first-party data revenue. So you can see your attribution data in Google, but more importantly, it drives all the automated bidding based on actual provable true ROI business outcomes. So Google's like, I mean, we've been working with them for 8 months and it's finally ready. So yeah, I guess this is the first time I'm announcing it, I think. It's been a labor of love, and Google's supporting it with co-branded webinars, recommending us, zipping me around to speak about it. So it's a big deal for our little company to get this far with them. But also we've had a couple of fantastic case studies where people have killed it. It's not guaranteed, but a couple have really killed it if they use this bidding strategy that aligns with the real data and they follow Google's best practices for machine learning optimization, which can be challenging for people to do.
Can we talk about one of those case studies?
Sure.
So pick one, because I don't know which they are.
There's a guy selling youth ministry training, which I didn't know was, there's so many ways to make money on the internet. It just amazes me.
Youth ministry training.
I know that was like one of his keywords had to do with the word youth ministry. And then I had to, oh man, make sure he's not doing a cult. Which far as I know he's not. Great guy. But here's how it started. Like his conversion data wasn't very good in Google. And I know he was spending around 10 grand a month, which we like to have, but we were trying to even get it for even smaller amounts. This was like, we were case piloting with like really small ad spends, like under 10K. We wanted to see if it would work. And I told the guy, I said, okay, Google says do the following, and you're going to do it. We're going to wire in your conversion data, and we're going to, I don't want you to even look at the damn thing for like a couple weeks because it's going to learn. And then we're going to hope that it works. And if not, I owe you like free Wicked Reports credits or something, but just hang in there and let's see if the machine can figure out things, which I'm going to say right up front. It doesn't always work, but it can work dramatically. This guy improved, I want to pull it up because I don't want to misstate actually. But from memory, I think it was like 4,000% growth or something astronomical and he was making like 9 to 1. And this is just from it learning on but he also set up his campaign correctly, which not everyone can do, and his marketing actually works. So, I mean, from the get-go, if you don't have a good offer, your hook sucks.
Yeah.
Data's you're just going to get mad at the data telling you, like, you're a marketing failure. It means you got to try something new, obviously. I mean, we've tracked 3.3 billion in orders from 1.3 billion in sales. Maybe 20% of campaigns work. It's the people that hang in there and keep testing and try, like to the point of your sponsor. Yeah, you need to test. It comes in. Oh, I know what you need to do in marketing. Well, you should not hire them. They might know what you need to test to get to what you need to know.
Yeah.
So he gets in there and he does exactly what I said. I wired in his conversion data. So every morning we would send the new lead count with his 30-day lead value, his re-opt-ins, which were his existing leads that re-opted in for whatever he was doing, with his 30-day lead value. New lead sales that occurred within 90 days, because that's all Google gave us for a window. So I joined a Google ad. I became a lead. And then within 90 days I bought. We'd send that ID back up with dollars. Or if someone actually bought at the end of the funnel, as everyone always thinks, last touch, which isn't recommended by Google to think that way anymore. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, but it's just what they say. So I wired this in, and he did what the correct machine learning survival guide that I have coming out from going through this experience, which was he spent enough so that he was getting a couple conversions a day, because the machine needs to know if it's doing a good or bad job. Otherwise, you're not going to get a lot of machine learning love. It can't help you if it doesn't know how it's doing. Secondly, he gave it materials to test with, meaning when he had search, he did responsive search ads, because that's what the machine likes to use to test. For display, he uploaded enough varied creative that it was happy. And he was running video, which, you know what, I didn't even look at, so I don't want to speak to. I'm not sure what he was doing in video, something positive. And he just kind of left it alone. I think he was traveling, or maybe he just listened, because I had emailed the pilot people and said, this is 90 days to success, not, oh my God, Google's going to save my marketing. But these people did know, they are good, successful marketers otherwise, from what I could tell. But it was 90 days, and we're going to let it run for a couple weeks or a month, and then we're going to look at it and adjust. And this particular person listened. Andy had good marketing, and he was 8-9 to 1. This was like a month and a half ago. I mean, it's just going up and up. Now, that's not always going to be the case, but. Mm-hmm. And then another guy who started out, this was the lobster guy, he didn't listen. He was panicking after 3 days. And he's like, I don't know, man, it's not working out. And I was like, you know why Wicked Reports exists? Because your leads take time to buy. Not, if this isn't a theory of leads take time to buy, your leads took time to buy. And you're freaking out on me after 3 days about your marketing that I don't even know what you're doing in there. And you're waiting 3 days when I can show you. I mean, we run stats, we show people's lead over time.
What was his average sales cycle? What was the lobster guy's average sales cycle?
His most sales are greater than 180 days, which he doesn't like to know. But he's got a big wad of them in 15 to 30 days.
Okay. So
I'm like, you got to give it 2 weeks, because we have reams of historical data going back from when 2014 that your leads never, not never, but they don't buy often right away when they see an ad. Mm-hmm. And he's freaking out about it. So we go back and forth. I'm pretty good. I'm good friends with him. Then I'm like, okay, well, just can you try to leave these couple alone? And he did. And lo and behold, he was making like 4 to 1, or he's making now 4 to 1 for June, because he finally did what the machine told him, what I told him the machine said to do. And he still didn't optimize correctly. He's doing $50 a day per campaign. Mm-hmm. You should do at least 100. You should do less campaigns, so there's more data. Mm-hmm. That being said, a lot of people do have success with if your hyper-segmentation is working well, go ahead, do it. I'm not here to say I know the answer to every funnel. I'm telling you what Google has told me and what I've seen worked for a couple cases. Now, there's a couple cases where it went bad, and those people had hyper-segmentation, and then they switched to using, and they had some conversion data in there that wasn't quite verifiable. They'd have like, hey, look, I made 7,000 leads in this week. And I'd be like, that's weird. Your CRM says 3,000. That can't be true.
Yeah. I remember having that. I was running contest funnels, and those two numbers would never agree between what Facebook was telling me and what my CRM was telling me.
They never do. And so then we have a third number, but we start from the CRM and try and figure it out. So we're starting from the reality. And so at least our foundation is strong. Mm-hmm. And if you want to argue with how we put a window in, whatever, but I mean, our foundation is as solid as it can be. It's the source. Mm-hmm. So he ended up doing well and so then he had an interesting thing. I don't like that. No one likes when the sales are branded. And I always was anti-branded too. Branded. And I was like, you know what though? If all your other marketing was working, how come they still needed a branding link to close the sale? They were online Googling and went to your branded link, because people are bidding on his brand now. He has to bid on his own brand, even though it drives him nuts. We're like, those other people in there are bidding on your brand. And one of his best ad groups is his competitors. You're stealing from your competitors. You have to bid on your brand if you have people bidding. Like, don't get mad at me. It's the data. It was all his ROI isn't from brand, but I mean, some of it was, and he didn't like that. But I was like,
and when you say bidding on competitors, or his competitors are bidding on him, they're just taking his brand name and putting it as a keyword in their campaigns.
Yeah.
So they're showing ads when people are typing in his campaign, his brand.
Yep. That's you see that all over the place, and it works generally.
Yeah.
It generally works well. So one well-known marketer didn't do that well, and a couple others, and in some cases, what I found with machine learning, and this is spread among the 10 people we tested, if you're going to be panicky while the machine's learning, you have every right to do that if you want. If you're not comfortable giving up control to the machine, you shouldn't do bid strategies based on machine learning. But this was based on, you've got to let the machine learn. And the kicker is, it may learn and decide, hey, guess what? This campaign sucks. And then you just wasted a week and you didn't do any optimization and it'll drive you nuts. But you got to let the machine get out of learning if you're doing automated bid strategies.
And by the machine, you're talking about the engine in your software?
I'm talking about, so Google's automated bidding uses machine learning.
Okay.
And then we're uploading the conversion data based on the real sales.
To help the machine to learn.
Yeah, so that the machine learns based on the real outcomes you want.
Okay.
So then the other one is if people don't spend enough or they have a high ticket item and not enough volume, you've got to have enough budget for enough conversion data for your campaign before you're going to hyper segment within that.
How much is enough conversion data?
So Google says 15 conversions within 30 days. That's their bare minimum. I like to see at least 2 conversions, 3 conversions a day. And that doesn't have to be, it could be lead conversions if you're comfortable with the leads knowing they're going to convert. But they just need conversion data with value.
Okay.
And then the initial, when you go to machine learning and you go to automated bidding with real outcomes, there's a dip initially because right now you were sending it, I don't know if I'd say fake conversion data, but inaccurate for various reasons. That adjustment period, the machine's like, whoa, wait, things are different. It slows down for a couple of days and nobody likes that. So I'm still experimenting with how to like gracefully onboard, without that traumatic first couple of days of learning. But fortunately now it'll tell you how long until it thinks it's going to be, have learned enough about your campaign. And that's when you can go in and optimize. But that's currently, a gray area for people to that.
So let's, in the interests of kind of closing the loop before we run out of time today, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this, and probably like many other people who are listening to you talk, they're thinking, yeah, I definitely want to make improvements in this area of my business. I need better visibility in this area of my business so ultimately I can make better decisions and get a higher ROI. How do I get started? So let's assume that someone wants to use your software. They're going to go there. They're going to go, is it a free trial? What does the onboarding look like? Do you have consultants that help people get all this other stuff set up? Or like, what does the experience look like?
Sure. So wickedreports.com/pricing.
Okay.
You go there and then you book time with you can pull we're results-based pricing. So we're priced based on your annual revenue. It's it's $199 plus $49 for every additional $1 million.
Okay.
So, it's like some infinitesimal percent of your annual rev. Now, onboarding is custom quoted now because what we found is, we don't want to have you buy and then be angry in 45 days that you're not onboarded right. At the same token, if you already have Google Tag Manager and Shopify and ActiveCampaign or one of those other, you can get set up really quick, and we shouldn't charge you we should charge you a much less onboarding. And so we have 5 questions that people go through on the call, and then you get a quote of onboarding on the spot. But it can be from $0 to $5,000. The median is $750, and there's a lot of $250, and it depends on your stack and your situation and what you're trying to track. So like what I mentioned, Shopify and one of our good CRM integrations, plus you're spending $10K a month, and all your sales are online in Shopify, it could be $250 or $0. A lot of people want to pay for onboarding because the onboarding will be, you go through our wizards and then we'll get on there and personally verify, not me, but someone on my team will personally verify with our SOPs that you have set everything up correctly. And if you have, then that call becomes free data consulting. Or some people want to pay for, I want to verify my tracking, I want to set up Zaps with you, and I want data consulting. Then that might be $750 or a little higher, depending on how much service you want. If you have a custom cart, or you have some people, if your tech stack is a hot mess, then we don't want you signing up cheap and having another aggravation, and furthermore taking you away from growing your business when you just needed an expert that's done this a bunch of times. So what we found is that if we can have 15 minutes of your time, we can save you a ton of time and probably save you money on onboarding. But if not, we can be firm, like, we really don't want you to onboard unless we help you because of what we've heard. I just find that works best for us. So I would say it's $750 to onboard would be probably, people like that one because they want initial data consulting. After all their data is flowing in, they want one of our experts to click around and tell them initial optimizations to do. So that's a really popular one. But $250 if you don't want that. If you were to say, I know data, I just want to get set up, you verify, $250, get you started.
Okay. For the last question, I always like to throw this back to you and say, because you know more about this topic than I do, if you were interviewing yourself, is there anything that we haven't yet talked about, or is there a question that you would ask yourself which you feel would make the interview better for the audience members who, again, all know probably less about this topic than you do?
Yes, I would say the question I would want to be asked, and I'm now going to ask myself, is how should I use attribution models? And the answer is you should have a game plan to map what was your marketing intent with that campaign, and then use the right attribution model that supports measuring if that campaign was a success. To give you an example, if you're trying to find new leads that become high-value customers, which everyone on earth should be trying to do, then you want an attribution model that laser focuses on that particular point in time of how did I get these new leads, and then correctly attributes revenue only based on that particular point in time, because I've found the hardest thing for people to do, next to converting people at the end of the funnel. The hardest thing is finding new leads, but then when you find them, hey, did I find customers out of this mess? And more importantly, was it at a high enough ROI, quick enough in time that I can start to worry about scaling that? Because that gives you the base point of how you're going to track the top of your funnel. The top of the funnel is the hardest thing to do, to find the good leads. The Glengarry leads is the hardest thing to do. And people that say otherwise are, either lying, or you should buy their course and do exactly what they say. Because you can find leads, they just crappy, or they don't buy, or they go dormant. And when you're looking at your particular subscription company, if you start the month with 100K in subscriptions, your goal in life should be, where did I find these so I can go find more of them? Or what hook did I use to get them? And then there's all the other pieces in your funnel you can worry about, but you got to start feeding that flow of leads in from top of the funnel. And that's why Facebook and Google shy away from that as measurement, because it's the hardest thing to do. And it doesn't always look so rosy from your campaigns when you're doing that. But they do work great for it, but there's a lot of nuance, and that's what we focused on. And that's also, it's a self-serving question. That's why we were created, because it was such a big need. And that's when people buy us for that reason, they never leave. But also, it's critical. It's oxygen for your business. It's gas that makes the car go faster. So that's why you should look at that. But then in the flips, a follow-up for that is, well, okay, I have this big email list that's dead, and I just inherited it as a marketer. I got to get it going again. How do I know if it works? And you may still have it. So you created some new great funnel. It's a 21-day guaranteed. I'm going to close 10% of them or whatever. Yeah. Well, you got this list of 100K that's just sitting there, or more maybe. Well, you're going to run ads and emails. Ideally, you'll have download our new guide to XYZ. Well, you're going to email them to download it. You're going to target your unconverted leads as a Facebook ad set. And hopefully you're going to target them on Google if your Google match isn't high enough. And then they're going to hopefully be opting in. And then you want to know, hey, did that work or not? 21 days later, oh, look, I converted 1,000. Where did they come from? Well, if it was existing leads, you need a measurement model that looks at, hey, was it an existing lead? Because otherwise you can't scale it, because it might have worked and it was only on people that were already familiar with your brand, not the cold traffic and not the hot to trots at the bottom, but the mid-funnel magic. Like, what get a stale lead to say, oh, damn, I need to buy this. Like that point in time was that great lead magnet that you sent them, but it wasn't a lead magnet. It was a re-engagement magnet, come to find out. And then you can architect your funnel to say, hey, once they're on the list and I've tried, offer X, Y, and Z, I'll send them this re-engagement funnel because I know it converts pretty well once people know my brand, but they haven't bought. So, and you wouldn't have known that if you didn't map the right attribution model, the right intention of the marketing. If you do that, it's like you love attribution. And if you don't, then it still can help you, but that's when you get the most value.
Loving it. Would love to have all of that happening in my business right now, immediately. That'd be a wonderful thing. So we're going to talk more when we get off camera about how we can make that happen. So thank you very much for making some time to be on the show. wickedreports.com is where people should go to learn more about your stuff. If someone is listening to this and they want to contact you about some type of joint venture, what would be the single easiest way for them to do that, Scott?
Yeah, on our website, we have intercom. And if they just mention joint venture, the chat operator will route it to me through intercom. So then I'll get it.
Okay.
And then, or my partnership manager or marketing manager, they usually come to me, those come to me, and then I route to one of them. And then we get on and figure something out.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks again for making some time.
Thanks for having me. It was great.